Today, we're driving through 10 cities where buying a home in 2022 turned out to be one of the worst financial decisions you could have made. We're talking about markets where prices dropped 20%, places where 65% of FHA buyers are now underwater, cities where homes that sold for $430,000 3 years ago are now being auctioned for $289,000. Nearly 900,000 Americans are now underwater on their mortgages, the highest number in 3 years. And that city at number 1? Over 18% of everyone who bought in 2022 now owes more than their home is worth. Let's hit the road.
Number 10, Lakeland, Florida. You roll into Lakeland expecting that sweet spot. Not too expensive, not too far from Tampa or Orlando. That perfect balance between affordable and accessible that everyone was chasing in 2022. What you find instead is a market flagged by analysts as one of the highest risk housing markets in the entire country. Here's what happened. Lakeland was the dream for remote workers. Close enough to major metros if you needed to go in occasionally, cheap enough that your Bay Area salary could buy you a mansion. Between 2020 and 2022, prices in Lakeland shot up nearly 60%. Everyone was buying. Nobody was asking questions. Then reality hit. According to CoreLogic's July 2025 report, Lakeland is now one of 5 Florida markets with a very high risk of major price decline. The city that attracted everyone looking for affordability, now it's attracting foreclosures. ATTOM data shows Lakeland had one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation in 2024 among metros with at least 200,000 residents, about 1 in every 172 homes. Insurance costs through the roof. Annual premiums that used to be $1,500 are now $4,000 or more. One local homeowner posted online, "We moved here in 2022 thinking we'd save money. Now our insurance costs more than our mortgage payment used to back in Chicago." The kicker? Lakeland's median home price peaked just below $400,000 in early 2024. It's been sliding ever since. And people who bought at the top are watching their equity evaporate month by month. The worst part? The people who moved here thought they were being smart. They left expensive cities. They did the math. They thought Central Florida was the safe play. One family that relocated from New Jersey in 2022 posted their story online. "We thought we were escaping the Northeast rat race. Got a beautiful 4-bedroom for what we were paying in rent back home. 3 years later, our home is worth less than we paid. Our insurance tripled, and we can't sell without bringing money to the table. We're stuck." That's the new reality. Stuck. This is what happens when everyone runs to the same place at the same time. Eventually, someone's left holding the bag. We head south for number 9, and things get worse.
Number 9, Northport, Florida. You drive into Northport expecting, well, actually, you're not entirely sure what to expect. It's not as famous as Tampa or Miami. It's that suburb of Sarasota where land was cheap and developers were building like crazy. In 2022, that's exactly why people were buying here. Fresh new construction, modern layouts, prices that seemed reasonable compared to what you'd pay an hour north. But here's what nobody told you. Northport has seen home prices drop more than almost anywhere else in America. According to Zillow data from 2025, Northport experienced a 10.3% drop in home prices from April 2024 to April 2025 alone. That's a difference of almost $50,000. But when you compare August 2025 prices to August 2022, we're talking about a 20% decline. That's not a correction, that's a collapse. The median sale price dropped from around $477,000 to about $428,000 in just 1 year. And compared to the pandemic peak, even lower. One local real estate agent told reporters, "We're used to years of just really ridiculous price increases, so we got used to that. Now this is more of a settling, a cooling to bring things to realistic levels." Settling, that's a nice word for it. But if you bought in 2022, you're not settling, you're drowning. Hurricane Ian didn't help.
When that storm ripped through Southwest Florida in September 2022, Northport homes took significant damage. Insurance companies noticed, and now those premiums that seemed manageable in 2022 have doubled or tripled. One longtime resident put it bluntly, "I would probably come to a house and check it out and find out what the homeowner wants to sell it for. I would probably get sticker shock in the beginning, but then you find out the prices are going down. They're going down all right, just not for the people who already own." We stay on the Gulf Coast for number 8, and this one made national headlines.
Number 8, Cape Coral, Florida. You pull into Cape Coral expecting what everyone expected in 2022, the next great American boomtown, the city of canals, more miles of navigable waterways than any other city in the world, a place where $350,000 could get you a brand new home with a pool and boat dock. What you find instead is what the Wall Street Journal called America's worst housing market. That's not hyperbole, that's an actual headline from June 2025. Here's the damage. Home prices in Cape Coral have tumbled 11% in just 2 years through May 2025, the most of any major metro area in the country. But it gets worse. Nearly 8% of Cape Coral homeowners are now underwater on their mortgages. That's the highest rate in the entire nation. Think about that. Almost 1 in 10 homeowners owes more than their house is worth. ICE Mortgage Technology reported that prices in Cape Coral are down 15% from peak. And among homeowners who bought with low down payment FHA loans in 2022, a staggering percentage are underwater. We're talking more than 2/3. How did this happen? It's the perfect storm. Prices soared 75% during the pandemic, then Hurricane Ian hit in September 2022. Insurance companies started fleeing the state, and suddenly that $350,000 dream home came with a $6,000 annual insurance premium and an HOA fee that doubled. One local realtor was blunt. If you are priced right to the market, you will generally sell fairly quickly. If you are not getting showing appointments, that means the market is overpriced. The problem? For 2022 buyers, the only way to price right to the market is to sell at a massive loss. Just 3 years ago, Cape Coral had 3,500 homes for sale. Today, over 12,000. Inventory has more than tripled, while demand has cratered. And just 40 miles away, Naples is selling $70 million condos to billionaires. Same state, same hurricane, completely different reality. The rich are going fine. It's the people who stretched to buy who are getting crushed. A local realtor who's been in the market for 22 years put it simply, "I thought it was clickbait when I saw that Wall Street Journal headline. But don't get me wrong, we're definitely in a correction." Another agent was more direct. Median sales prices have not reached 2022 levels since then, and they have slowly deteriorated in what I have called a stealth price decline and a slow-motion train wreck for home sellers. Slow-motion train wreck. That's what buying in Cape Coral in 2022 feels like now. The foreclosures are coming too. ATTOM data shows Cape Coral saw over 100 foreclosure-related actions in May 2025 alone, a nearly 50% increase from April, and more than 60% higher than May of last year. For people who bought with FHA loans in 2022, there's almost no hope. The vast majority are underwater. They can't refinance, they can't sell, they just have to keep making payments on a home that's worth less every month. Let's head west to the original boomtown.
Number 7, Austin, Texas. You cruise into Austin expecting the city that everyone couldn't stop talking about in 2021 and 2022. The tech mecca, the new Silicon Valley, the place where Elon Musk and Joe Rogan moved and everyone followed. What you find is a city in freefall. According to ICE Mortgage Technology, Austin home prices have dropped 19.7% from their May 2022 peak. That's the sharpest price drop of any major housing market in the United States. Not just this year, ever. Let me put that in dollars. The average home in Austin has lost $117,717 in value since the peak. That's not a rounding error. That's more than many Americans earn in 2 years. And here's the number that should scare everyone who bought in 2022. Among all outstanding mortgages in Austin, 4.2% are underwater. But for loans originated in 2022 specifically, that number jumps to 18.2%. Almost 1 in 5 people who bought a home in Austin in 2022 now owes more than their home is worth. For FHA borrowers from that year, it's catastrophic. 65% of FHA loans from 2022 are now underwater. 2 out of every 3. In 2022, over 34,000 residential properties sold in the Austin area. About 1,700 of those were FHA loans. Applying the data, roughly 6,243 of those 2022 buyers are now underwater. About 1,100 of those are FHA borrowers. These aren't numbers. These are people. Families. First-time homebuyers who did everything right, saved their money, got approved, closed on their dream home, and now they're trapped. One Austin homebuyer who purchased in early 2022 told a reporter, "I started to back out so many times, especially when I was going through those bidding wars. I didn't feel good about bidding that much. I'll never forget when my agent did the paperwork and turned it in. I didn't get any sleep at night. I remember calling her the next morning and was like, 'I'm thinking about backing out.' She didn't. And now she, like thousands of others, is stuck." The numbers tell a devastating story. Austin's median sold price approached $550,000 at the peak. By May 2025, that number dropped to $450,000. That's $100,000 gone. Vanished. And it happened so gradually that many homeowners didn't realize how bad it was until they tried to sell. Austin inventory is now 69% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Homes sit on the market for over 70 days, and the bleeding hasn't stopped. Year to date through July 2025, sales are down 7.4% from last year. One local economist summed it up. Austin thrived during the COVID migration, with tech adoption and remote work fueling a surge of cash buyers. Prices were bid up aggressively, triggering a building boom. Now, with return-to-office trends in play and people moving back to their home cities, inventory has risen and prices are beginning to fall. Beginning to fall. They've been falling for 3 years straight. Remember those tech workers who moved here because they could work from anywhere? Many of them got called back to the office, and when they left behind a city with way too many houses and not enough buyers. This is what happens when a decade's worth of price growth gets packed into 2 years. Someone always pays the price. We head north to another city that made the same mistake.
Number 6. Phoenix, Arizona. You point the car toward Phoenix, expecting... Honestly, at this point, you're starting to see a pattern. Another Sunbelt boomtown. Another pandemic paradise. Another place where everyone moved in 2021 and 2022. And another market where reality caught up. According to a new Zillow report, 86.9% of homes in the Phoenix metropolitan area lost value from November 2024 to October 2025. That's fourth worst of any major metro area in the country. Nearly 9 in 10 homes worth less today than a year ago. Phoenix home values peaked in mid-2022 when the typical home was worth around $468,000. Today, that number has dropped. Not by a lot, but enough that anyone who bought at the peak with a small down payment is in trouble. Between February 2020 and February 2025, home prices in Phoenix climbed 53%. That sounds great if you bought in 2019. It's a nightmare if you bought in 2022. One real estate analyst put it simply, this market is trending down and trending down fast. A home in Lavin, just 8 miles from downtown Phoenix, that sold for $431,000 in September 2022, above the listed price of $415,000 because of a bidding war, is now in foreclosure, being auctioned off with an estimated value of $289,500. That homeowner lost $140,000 in 3 years, more than 30%. Local agents are seeing it everywhere. One told reporters, the market is feeling softer and softer, with many properly priced homes sitting unsold and with very few showings. And here's the thing about Phoenix. It's not just buyers who are struggling. The city itself is losing people. According to migration data, Maricopa County's net domestic migration fell from 32,600 in 2022 to negative 1,800 in 2024. For the first time in over a decade, more people are leaving than arriving. No new buyers coming in, and sellers who need to get out. That's how markets crater. The irony is brutal. Everyone moved to Phoenix to escape expensive coastal cities. They traded San Francisco rents for Arizona mortgages, and for a while, it looked genius. But they brought their money with them, and that money bid up prices to the point where Phoenix itself became unaffordable. Now, the people who already lived there can't afford to stay, and the people who moved there can't afford to leave. One community initiatives director in Phoenix told local news, "We're seeing older adults experiencing homelessness at a far greater rate here in Maricopa County than we see elsewhere in the country. And that's a trend that's been going on for a long time." Homelessness in a city full of empty houses. That's what happens when housing becomes an investment instead of a place to live. We head north to the mountains. Number 5, Denver, Colorado. You cruise into Denver expecting one of America's most desirable cities. Mountains, craft breweries, an outdoor lifestyle that everyone was willing to pay top dollar for. What you find is a city where 91% of homes have lost value over the past year. The highest rate of any major metro in the entire country. That's not a typo, 91%. According to Zillow, the Denver metro area leads the nation for share of homes that declined in value from November 2024 to October 2025. More than Austin, more than Phoenix, more than anywhere else. The Zillow Home Value Index for Denver peaked at $592,969 in June 2022. By October 2025, that number dropped to $530,699, a decline of $62,270, or about 10.5%. Now let's do some math. The average first-time buyer in 2022 put down 6%. That's about $35,500 on a typical Denver home. With 3 years of payments, they might have paid down another 5 or 6% of principal. But home values dropped over 10%, which means someone who bought a typical Denver home at the peak and tried to sell today would be underwater. After paying agent commissions of around $30,000, they'd be down about $92,000. That's not including what they've paid in mortgage interest, or property taxes, or all those repairs that come with owning a home. One local agent summarized the situation. 5 years later, the Denver metro is experiencing the after, a market returning to balance though shaped by high interest rates. This market stabilization has come with lower buyer demand, higher inventory levels, and stagnating prices. Stagnating is one word, cratering is another. Condos are getting hit even harder. Prices for attached homes in Denver peaked near $450,000 in 2022. Today, they're down to around $400,000. That's an 11% drop for condo owners. Why? Insurance costs, HOA fees, the same factors killing markets across the country. One agent explained, it might be a $300,000 or $400,000 condo, but the HOA dues are $600 a month. It's a really impactful additional cost that has grown significantly over the last couple years. The Colorado Association of Realtors put it simply, pricing is key, and sellers should assume a downward trend when considering list price. Assume prices are going down. That's the official advice now. And it's not just the Front Range. A real estate analyst looking at Colorado said, I think the entire Front Range is experiencing this scenario. We have more houses on the market than we do buyers. In 2022, homes in Denver averaged just 11 days on the market. People were lining up, Multiple offers on day one, waiving inspections just to have a chance. Today, homes sit for an average of 27 days. Some markets are even worse. In Pueblo, it's taking nearly 90 days to sell, and prices there have dropped almost 7% year over year. One real estate agent who's tracked the market for years made an observation that should concern everyone. Sellers who purchased during the boom or who over-improved for speculative resale began listing at losses. This isn't theory, this is happening. Houses that sold for $1.15 million in early 2023 are now listing for $1.05 million. Properties that closed at $1.02 million in 2022 are now asking for $969,000. Every listing is a loss. Every sale is someone who bought at the peak and is now paying the price. We swing west to another city where everyone rushed to buy.
Number 4. Sacramento, California. You drive into Sacramento expecting, well, it's California. Everyone always said California was immune. Too much demand, not enough supply. Prices only go up. Turns out that was wrong. According to Zillow, 88% of homes in Sacramento lost value over the past year, third worst of any major metro in the country, just behind Denver and Austin. Sacramento was the backup plan for a lot of Bay Area workers during the pandemic. Too expensive in San Francisco? Too pricey in San Jose? Sacramento was close enough to commute occasionally, but cheap enough to actually afford. At least that was the pitch. Home values in Sacramento surged during the pandemic buying frenzy, and now they're giving it all back. The buyers who stretched to buy in 2022, thinking they were escaping California's crazy prices, ended up creating California-level crazy prices in Sacramento. And when rates jumped, when return-to-office mandates came, suddenly Sacramento didn't look so attractive to remote workers with Bay Area salaries. The math was simple. In 2022, a tech worker earning $200,000 in San Francisco could buy a nice house in Sacramento and drive in for occasional meetings. It made sense. But then their company said, come back to the office 4 days a week. And suddenly that 90-minute commute each way didn't seem so smart. So they sold, or tried to. Except now everyone's trying to sell at the same time, and there aren't enough buyers to absorb the supply. Sellers are cutting prices, homes are sitting, and the people who bought at the peak are watching their equity evaporate. One real estate veteran put it plainly. You can see that buyers have more power in the transaction than they did in previous years, including being able to under-ask and getting more contingencies. Under-ask? That's a word you didn't hear in 2022. Now it's common. This is what happens when everyone runs from one problem and creates the same problem somewhere else. Let's head further west, to another city that learned the same lesson.
Number 3. Dallas, Texas. You roll into Dallas expecting the Texas success story. No state income tax, business-friendly policies, affordable homes compared to the coasts. What you find is another Sunbelt market where 86.7% of homes have lost value over the past year. Dallas rode the same wave as Austin. Corporate relocations, remote workers, California refugees. The population surged. Home prices followed. And now, according to ICE Mortgage Technology, Dallas has elevated underwater mortgage rates. Not as bad as Austin, but bad enough that the metros with elevated underwater shares include Dallas right alongside Austin and San Antonio. Texas built too much. Builders saw the demand and went crazy. New subdivisions popped up everywhere, and now there's an oversupply of homes that nobody's buying. One local observation captures it perfectly. Texas has become home to markets with very high negative equity rates above 5%. For anyone who put less than 20% down in 2022, the math is brutal. If your home dropped 10% and you only had 5% equity to begin with, congratulations, you're underwater. And here's the thing about Dallas that makes it especially painful. People moved here thinking they were making the safe choice. Not Austin, which was obviously overheated, not Phoenix, which felt like a bubble.
Dallas was the steady one, the city that kept growing without the crazy price spikes. Except it did have crazy price spikes. Between 2020 and 2022, Dallas home prices jumped just as fast as everywhere else. People just didn't talk about it as much. Now, they're talking about it, because the same patterns are emerging. Price cuts on listings, homes sitting for months, sellers who can't get what they paid. One local observer noted that the Dallas-Fort Worth area added so many new homes during the pandemic that supply has overwhelmed demand. Builders kept building because that's what builders do. They saw the demand and assumed it would last forever. It didn't. We crossed the border to the last few cities on our list.
Number 2. San Antonio, Texas. You pull into San Antonio expecting the more affordable alternative to Austin, the city that was always overshadowed by its flashier neighbor up I-35, the place where you could still buy a decent home for under $300,000. What you find is a market showing the same signs as everywhere else. According to ICE data, San Antonio has a 4.3% negative equity rate, slightly higher than Austin's overall rate. Among recent buyers, the situation is worse. San Antonio benefited from the same trends: remote work, migration from expensive states, military families, but it also got hit by the same problems: overbuilding, rising insurance costs, and a construction boom that flooded the market with new homes just as demand collapsed. The median home price has stagnated. Sellers are cutting prices. Buyers who stretched in 2022 are now trapped in homes they can't sell without writing a check. This is the reality across Texas now. 3 of the biggest cities in the state, Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio, all showing elevated underwater rates, all suffering from the same formula: pandemic boom, oversupply, and buyers who got caught holding the bag. The Texas dream is turning into the Texas nightmare for thousands of homeowners. No state income tax doesn't matter when your house is worth $80,000 less than what you paid for it. One San Antonio homeowner who bought in 2022 shared their frustration online. Everyone told us Texas was the place to be. Low taxes, affordable homes, room to grow. Now our home is worth less than our mortgage and we can't sell without bringing cash to closing. How is that affordable? It's not. That's the point. We head to the finish line, to the city that might be the biggest warning of all.
Number 1. Austin, Texas. Wait, didn't we already cover Austin? Yeah, we did, at number 7. But Austin deserves to be here twice, because it's not just one of the worst markets for 2022 buyers, it might be the worst market for 2022 buyers. Let me give you the full picture. Austin home prices peaked at around $550,000 in mid-2022. As of May 2025, the median sold price has dropped to $450,000. That's a decline of $100,000, an 18.2% drop from the peak. Historically, May is one of the strongest months for Austin home prices, with a long-term average increase of 5.1%. This year, prices dropped another 1.1%. This isn't cyclical. This isn't seasonal. This is a market that has been declining for 3 straight years with no sign of stopping. And the human cost is staggering. Remember those numbers I mentioned earlier? 18.2% of all 2022 buyers underwater, 65% of FHA buyers underwater, over 6,000 people who bought in 2022 now owe more than their homes are worth. One person who bought in 2022 said it plainly. Our realtor pushed us to increase higher than we wanted to win the home, and now we are stuck with $80,000 in repairs and homeless. That's not a typo, homeless. They bought a home and ended up homeless because of repairs they couldn't afford on a property that's now worth less than they paid. The Austin Board of Realtors data shows this isn't getting better. Year-to-date through May 2025, the median price has fallen year over year every single month.
Monthly declines from January to May ranged from 1.1 to 4.5%. Inventory is 69% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Sales are down. And the factors that fueled the boom, low rates, remote work, tech hiring, have all reversed. Austin might recover. Eventually. In 5 years? Maybe 10. But for the people who bought in 2022, they'll be underwater for a long, long time.